All right, and good day, folks. When John and I recorded this episode, we had no idea just how timely it would turn out to be. Just like the Eagles 74 album, today's conversation is on the border. Yes, we all saw recently the multi hour and sometimes multi day delays as CBSA struggled through yet another systems outage last week. But that is not what we're here to talk about today. Our focus is people and specifically the growing trend of device search and seizure, especially on the US side. Join John and I as we share real world experiences, look at the patterns we're seeing with the current administration, and outline practical steps for drivers and carriers to take if a routine crossing turns into a device detention. Watch all the way to the end, folks. There's some great information and links provided to help support you in this issue. And thanks very much for joining you. Please be sure to click subscribe the button. We'll talk to you later. Good day, folks, and welcome back to Compliance Clips, your industry insights hub. My name's Rick Morgan.
And I'm John Farquhar. And today we're digging into a situation that we're seeing with increasing frequency lately. Electronic device searches at the border, no less. Phones, laptops, tablets, if it stores data, could even be a hard drive, stores data, Customs and Border Protection in the US, CBP, or CBSA in Canada, they're more than welcome to look at it and they don't need your permission.
That's right, John. And we're hearing about it in the news. You're seeing it. It was quite heavily promoted when things were first starting to get a little bit tighter at the border with the current administration, maybe 6 or 8 months ago. We heard about professionals. We heard about people going down on business, getting stopped on the arrival. And last week, I received a phone call from one of my clients that they had a driver who is a naturalized Canadian. Been working cross-border for 15 years for the same carrier. Had a fast card, whole 9 yards. Got stopped during just a regular crossing. The CBP asked to see the individual's phone and asked for passwords and everything. And shortly thereafter, he was presented with an interesting document saying, "Did you know about the following?" And it listed a whole bunch of terrorist organizations and said that you have to sign here being told that you're aware of it. So it said the U.S. government has designated the following groups as foreign terrorist organizations, and it went on to list them, and it gave you the laws that related to them. And at the bottom it said, "I have confirmed that I have received and understood this notification," which when you receive it makes you wonder, where is this going? So anyway, he was held long enough that the shipment had to be canceled. His devices and documents were returned and he was released, but he got red flagged. So he went down. He was told he could go back.
Right.
Went back the next day, denied entry.
Really?
So 2 loads have been canceled, lots of dead time, not great customer relations, and we don't even know what triggered the inspection.
And this is why this topic matters. There's no doubt about it. Detention, device searches, they're not limited to drivers with compliance problems. I actually just was talking with some friends this weekend, and they were talking about a trip they did earlier this year to Florida, or I should say tried to do to Florida, because they were tourists. Right? They weren't doing any business. They were just going down to Florida to have some fun as a group. There was like 4 or 6 of them, couples. Anyway, one lady was asked her opinion of Donald Trump. And she said, "Well, I just don't think he's a very nice person," and left it at that. And they denied her entry and then put on her record she couldn't come for 5 more years.
5 years.
5 years. They'd also done a search of her device and found out that on her social media page, she had made a comment about she didn't think he was a very nice person. And away it went. So, it's showing you the powers that CBP and CBSA have. And we need to understand and not underestimate these powers. They have the right to tell us whether we can come in or whether we can't, whether to go home or whether to carry on. It's not going to happen. And the current U.S. administration is aggressively managing immigration, integrity, and conducting heightened investigations of foreign nationals. That's us. We're foreign nationals into the U.S.
That's right. Yeah, we are.
This isn't just about convenience. It's the foundation of most trucking company businesses, and it's a whole new playing field.
So, folks out there in podcast land, we know you're busy, but please stay tuned, because towards the end of this, we got a whole bunch of materials and links that we're going to share that may help you in dealing with this situation, preparing for it. Because the reality is, I think, whereas the legislation that's in place has existed for a long time, we really haven't seen a lot of these events, but we're starting to see them happening, as John's experienced and I've experienced. They're actually becoming, unfortunately, daily events.
Yep. So let's break this down in a few segments, and let's start with the ground rules. So at the border, whether it be going into the U.S. or be coming into Canada, customs officers have a very broad range of powers, including expanded search and seizure powers, right? Thanks to the border search exception, CBSA and CBP can search your device without a warrant.
That's right. And there's two kinds of searches. There's the basic search, which is just flipping through the photos and the emails that are there. And they can do that just because they want to see what's there. And then there's the advanced search, where they can use forensic tools to analyze the data and dig deep down in there, including what you've got encrypted. Wow. Now, in the U.S., they need reasonable suspicion to do that, although, it's always debatable what's reasonable. It seems that these days reasonable could simply be the country of your birth.
Yep.
So, in Canada, I believe, John, they don't even need that, do they?
Nope. It goes further. If CBSA asks you for your password to open your phone, you must provide it. Refuse, they'll seize your device right on the spot, and they'll bring in the forensics experts to open it up. If by refusing alone will give them suspicion to think something's up and make them want to dig further. So don't let them dig further.
So I got tagged once, interestingly enough, similar to your friend, where I was flying out on a family holiday, and I'm at the check-in, and they take my passport, they take my ticket, and it's kind of that quiet thing, whenever they, if you deal with these things a lot, when something's starting to go sideways, and everyone gets kind of quiet, and they look out the side of their eyes. It's the supervisor that's hanging back there, and they said, Mr. Morgan, we're going to ask you to go over there. So they pointed to the other side of the kiosk, which were all empty except for one. So I walk over there, and they give me my ticket, and they give me my passport, and I go over, and I kind of walk up, and the guy just, deadpan face, very serious, the typical, I don't let my personality show through employee. Right. And I said, well, I was asked to come over here and show these to you, give me my passport and ticket. So he takes them, types away feverishly at the computer for a while, silence, taps, flips the screen through. You can kind of see the whole thing developing, then stops, looks up, smiles, give him my documentation back. Say, okay, no problem, Mr. Morgan. And I look at him and say, am I on the no-fly list? Is my name on there? He kind of looks at me, goes, yeah, but not you, which is unusual because my first name is very rare. The combination, my first name is a Welsh name, and I'm not going to get into how it's spelt here, but let's just say it's frequently mispronounced. So there's not a lot of people who would have it.
Yes.
So, you need to be aware of this, folks, and there's limitations to what they can search. But I believe, John, that if you're a professional and you have things like client files or HR files, or you're a lawyer, or that you need to tell the officer at the time you hang over the device that there are materials there that are protected under the confidentiality laws, or you lose that right of protection. correct?
Yes, but it's only if you speak up.
That's right.
If you don't speak up, it's not going to happen.
And if you refuse to unlock the device,
Mm-hmm.
you're denied entry, right?
Yep, exactly. Not going anywhere.
So then let's get into, what can we as carriers and operators do to try and mitigate this situation? How are you going to prepare for an eventuality that I think quite frankly, if you're crossing the bridge enough times, somebody's going to face it.
Mm-hmm.
What are we going to do?
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things we should be considering is probably company-owned devices, right? Don't need a personal-owned device, company device with only the essentials, right? Whatever's required to do the job at hand. You don't need any personal files. You don't need any of those unnecessary apps, no social media. Realistically, you know what? We're just crossing the border. What do we need to cross the border? That's all I need on that phone.
I think that could be a little tough for some of the guys who are living in their trucks, right?
Us older guys wouldn't have a problem with it. I think them younger fellers there, they need to be in the know. I need to know what's happening on Facebook and Snapchat and stay in
just,
touch.
Watching movies through Netflix subscriptions or staying in touch with your family. But the question becomes, do you need the app or can you use the web interface?
Right. One of the things, and this is where we grew up in, Rick, is we never had these devices crossing the border back in the day.
We read books.
Right.
Magazines.
But in order to stay in touch with loved ones and family back home, and even dispatch for that matter, we found a payphone. We went and got a payphone. So we never had any of this information. So for us, it's almost a no-brainer that goes, well, if the device is going to get you in trouble, don't take the device with you. However, unfortunately, the younger generations have grown up with this technology, and I will say those truck stops are no longer equipped with that wall bank of telephones anymore.
Yeah, that's right. They may have, but they got free Wi-Fi.
You've got that right. You got free Wi-Fi, so you can access, and like you say, use the web interface rather than the app, or if not, whatnot.
And just be mindful of what you're posting on there. To your comment about your friend who said that he or she did not think that the current president was necessarily the nicest individual. Be very aware that somebody's joke is another person's insult.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
if you're making jokes, particularly ones that are distasteful about people in power or things like that, then that can be interpreted incorrectly.
Oh, big time.
So you might want to think about having two devices, one which is cross-border and one which is when you're at home. You might want to consider encrypting. You might want to consider using strong passwords, recognizing that coming into Canada, that doesn't mean anything. Yeah. And we've seen that the U.S. can be very forceful on that and demanding that, I believe it was Apple that had the very strong encoding and would not provide rules, would not provide access, but that's changing.
Yes. Yeah. So, well, and this is where it's going to be helpful to have, even if you're running one device, keep your personal and your work data separate, right?
Different profiles.
It should be up into a cloud base or whatever. Yep. Never mix the two. And if your device is detained, whether it be your personal device or a company device or a mix, you know what? You need to call the compliance department immediately. Let them know. That's going to be huge because maybe that's your only means of communications with operations and whatnot. So, and companies, when this happens, you need to document everything and keep a receipt of everything that happens. CBP, CBSA is going to give the driver a document saying, we're taking possession of your vehicle. Here's a receipt of that. The company needs to keep that in order to follow that process.
Yeah, both sides will do that. I know the U.S. has a special form that they issue, and they can I believe they can hold your device for up to 15 days without any reason.
Yep.
Which, if this is how you're communicating with dispatch and everyone else, can be problematic. And again, another good reason why you may want to have just a disposable throwaway type phone for this type of application.
Sure.
So anyway, the last kind of things to think up is all that information that is really key, critically important. Make sure you're backing it up to the cloud so that if they do take your device and you have to get another one, you can log on and access it, and at least you're still able to contact people.
Right.
And don't take any critical files. Don't take anything that's so critical you don't want it shared. I know that when I was out in the field and I was working for some of the logistics providers, I would go into countries whose nature was a little bit different than here, and they didn't really necessarily have any concerns about breaking into your devices when you weren't in the hotel room to try and find trade secrets. And we learned nothing on the device. Everything on a cloud, everything password controlled, everything encrypted. So that's a good practice here. Keep your information on secure servers or in the cloud at the end of the day.
Big time.
So kind of in closing, as we wrap today's session up, John, we're going to provide a whole bunch of information and links at the end of the show here that you can download.
Check the description below.
Down below. The main takeaway, I think, is at the border, control what you carry.
Yep. And then train your people. Create a playbook and enforce that playbook. Document every search. Whenever there's something happening, even if they don't take the device, document what were they looking for, what was going on. Document the search.
Yeah, because if you do have a driver that's red flagged and he continues to have issues getting back in, but he's been told at the initial inspection that there's no reason to stop him, you may need to elevate this with the given border that you're having the issues with, and that's how you're going to keep your drivers moving. You're going to keep your data safe, and you're going to keep the carriers out of the courtroom.
Yep, exactly. So, because like they say, just because it's compliance isn't just paperwork. It's protection. It's going to protect our ass.
It's our Kevlar underwear.
Ooh, I like that.
You like that one? Yeah.
Yes.
That's my driver compliance program. I call it the Kevlar underwear program.
I like it.
Yeah, you can shoot a bullet at it, and it bounces off just like Underdog. Remember Underdog?
Yep, I do. Better than wearing Milk-Bone underwear.
Yeah, so. I'll bet you 90% of our audience is going, who the heck is Underdog? And if there's a sudden spike on Google for who's Underdog, you can thank Compliance Clips.
That's right.
We bring the most pressing information to your inbox, folks.
Exactly.
Anyway, look for some links and sample downloads to follow. Thanks very much for attending, and we'll look forward to seeing you. We've got some really interesting ones coming up in the future.
Yep.
I believe we're going to be speaking with some folks from the Canadian Truck Driver Schools Association, and much, much more. So stay tuned, folks. Take care.
Cool. Be safe.